Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Urbana-Champaign. My name is Kelly Skinner, and my pronouns are she, her. And I am the manager of religious exploration and engagement here at UUC-UC. I am super delighted to be leading this worship service this morning alongside several of our wonderful OWL facilitator team members who you'll get to meet in a little bit. We are a church of many different theologies and identities united by our shared commitment to building community, seeking inspiration, and promoting justice and finding peace. I remind you to look around at the color-coded lanyards of your neighbors and be aware and respectful of others' needs and boundaries when we are together. We are also a congregation of all ages, which means that we embrace all the noises and little disruptions that our kiddos can bring into a Sunday morning. While our formal REE class is on a break right now over the summer, our nursery does remain open. And we have a special elementary storybook REE class for ages 5 to 11. Children are welcome to remain in the service or to go downstairs with their parents and their teachers, after the time for all ages section. But as always, whether you're young at heart or young in body, if you're feeling a little fidgety or antsy or distracted, you're welcome to go check out the activity table back in the corner to get a coloring kit or anything else that's on the table to engage your hands while we're engaging your heart. If this is your first time joining us today, welcome. We have services here in Fellowship Hall during the summer because it's a whole lot cooler than our sanctuary. And it also gives us a chance to be a little bit more creative and engaging for how we worship together. And so this morning's service is a chance for us to talk about sex, sexuality, and sex education. Is this okay? Is this something that's okay to talk about at church? Heck yes. I actually argue that there's no better place than church, especially the UU Church, to talk about this topic. Did you know that the UUA has been committed to sexual rights and health for more than 40 years? I did not know that. Congregations and national leaders, they rose to the political and personal challenge of the AIDS crisis in the 80s. We led interfaith coalitions in the successful movement towards marriage equality, and we continue to hold a place at the forefront in the ongoing struggle for gender and reproductive justice. Our bylaws and our practices recognize many, many identities and types of relationships, as well as the need to prevent sexual abuse and misconduct, including misconduct by clergy. UUism sees sexual expression as an affirming part of the human experience, and we support everyone's right to learn about it and to engage in sex in consensual, pleasurable, and developmentally appropriate ways. We also acknowledge that sexuality in our society is damaged by violence and exploitation, alienation, dishonesty, abuse of power, and the treatment of people as objects. Our faith tradition doesn't maintain a list of thou shall nots. Rather, we offer opportunities for open conversations to learn about sexuality, to gain spiritual perspectives on sex so that we can make decisions wisely, ethically, and in accordance with our personal and with our faith values. Our embrace of sexuality as a core element of the human experience has proved to be literally life-changing and life-saving for people of all ages who have emerged from faith traditions that have shamed or diminished them. They have found that Unitarian Universalism encourages them to discover or reconnect with the rich and vibrant beauty of their own sexuality. And scientific evidence is central to the UU perspective on sexuality. We trust the statistics that show that education decreases the rates of unintended pregnancy and improves health outcomes. We know that honoring each person's sexual identity can decrease self-harm. And we know that sexual expression is a developmental process that begins in infancy, and it lasts throughout our entire human life. And we know that consent education decreases negative things like sexual assault. And most of all, most important, is our number one principle. We value the worth and dignity of each person. We acknowledge that we are whole beings with physical bodies that are deeply connected to our emotions and our mind and our spirit, and that all parts of us are beautiful and sacred. So let's talk about sex this morning. Whether this is your first Sunday with us or your 1,000th, whether you are here in person or watching us from afar, know that you are welcome here and that this service is for you. I hope you find something in it that you need. So I would like to invite
Good morning. My name is Martin Stockward. I use he, they pronouns, and I'm going to read the chalice lighting this morning. Whenever we gather, we light a flaming chalice, a symbol of our Unitarian Universalist tradition to mark this time as special and sacred. If you have a chalice or candle to light at home, please, I invite you to light it now. We'll light, okay. If you have lost your lighter at home, please take this pause to go find it. So be nice. All right.
You're dangerously close to having smashed. It's a fire safety thing. We can't just have matches and lighters hanging around. Yep, we're matching it. Actually, let's, yay! Okay, we have matches.
Woohoo.
Please continue.
Thank you. We'll light our chalice this morning with words from Love Like Thunder, a book of meditations by Jess Reynolds. This is a poem called A Prayer for My Queer and Trans Siblings, though I would like to extend its message to all of you here today. You can join in reading along if you wish. The words are printed in the insert in your order of service. Here you are, here in this holy space, standing on this ground that is holy because you are here. Here you are in flesh and bone, filling up this body that belongs to you alone. Your pumping heart is a wonder because it keeps you alive. Your loving heart is a blessing because it keeps all of us alive. The spirit of love has a home in you. May we all see that love in you, and let our hearts become mirrors for the compassion at your core. The spirit of justice has a home in you. May we light our wicks from one another until we are all aflame, until we burn out every prejudice we carry in these bones. Here you are, holy as you are, blessed be.
All right.
Good morning, I'm Kimberly Cronick. My pronouns are she, hers.
Hi, I'm Paul Kaiser, he, him.
Paul and I teach K through 1 sex ed here at the church. And Paul, can I give you a hug?
Not right now.
Okay, how about a fist bump?
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, great. Thank you, Paul.
Good morning, Kim.
Good morning, good to see you. You know, when we were little, people would come up to us and they'd want to tickle us, they'd want to hug us, they'd want to give us rides on their backs, pick us up and kiss us. A lot of times that's okay. One of the things we teach in OWL our whole lives is how to teach a young child to say no. It's my body. How do I say no? So, because sometimes we don't feel like doing any of those things. And it can be hard getting out of playing with someone, especially if that someone is an adult or your parent or someone you deeply love. But we know what to do, right, Paul?
Of course.
So here's the scenario. Paul's the babysitter and I'm the kid.
Hey, let's play that tickle game, Kim. It's good to see you. Let's go. Do you want to tickle?
No.
Oh, come
no, I
on.
don't
Maybe it
wanna
was so
pickle.
much fun. Why
No,
not?
I just don't feel like laughing right now.
But come on, just a little. Why not?
Because it's my body.
Okay.
There's a favorite uncle that likes to give me rides on his back, and he happens to be over at the house.
Yeah, come on, get on. Remember, let's go piggyback. Right. Come on.
Not now, partner.
Come on.
Not now, partner.
No, come on. Just a little. Right on the back. Okay,
you know,
let's go.
No. I just don't want to do this today.
Come on. Oh, come on. Why not?
Because
Let's go.
it's my body, and I say no.
Okay.
We're at Grandma's house, and her best friend, who just loves to pinch my cheeks and hug me, comes over, and as soon as she does, I feel a little in my stomach. Yes. So, are you going to try to kiss me?
I thought you were.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, you know what? Can we just do a high five instead?
But
No, it's my body, and I just want a high five today.
but why?
Because it's my body.
Okay.
All right, high five. Okay, great. And even if someone wants to kiss me, my dad, my mom, and I don't feel like being kissed, there are things I can say.
Hi, Kim. How about a kiss?
I just don't feel like being kissed today.
Come on before school.
Nope, it's my body, and I don't feel
But
like
why
being
not?
kissed.
Oh,
It's
okay.
my body.
All right.
So that's some of the scenarios we teach kids as young as kindergarten, first and second grade. Body awareness, to say, look, it's great to have physical affection and to be loved. And when you don't want it, there's a way to say no. And sometimes you're fierce in the no, and sometimes you have to repeat yourself, but that's okay. We give kids these models.
And now, a chance to acknowledge that this isn't just an empty room with one person up at the pulpit, but that we're a community of equals. Let's take a moment to turn in our seats, maybe model consent, and greet your neighbors if they want you to. You might introduce yourself, wish each other good morning, ask them if they'd like to shake hands, or simply put your hand out on your own heart and smile to say hello. We'll take just a minute or two.
Hello, Paul. Hi.
Hi. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
That was great.
You did great.
Thank you. You too.
Who comes? 15 more seconds. Okay, you tickle the keys? Okay, thanks, everyone. You can... All right, I saw lots of consent questioning going on. That was good. You can continue, we can all continue socializing after the service here in the fellowship hall or outside. So now kids are invited to join their teachers in the back to go downstairs for stories and playground time. Parents, you can pick up the children at the playground immediately following the service.
So, I want to tell you a little bit about what Sacred Sexuality and the Our Whole Lives program is here, if you're not familiar with it. And in December, when I started here, back in December of 2022, so I've only been here for about 8 months now, I had a chance to meet with volunteers from every aspect of REE and learn more about what we offer here. And I will never forget my first meeting with Michaela Cruz, who is our OWL team leader. And one of the very first things that we did was we walked downstairs to the storage area for OWL, which is right across from the library. And she opened up these 2 metal cabinets that we have hidden in a locked room. And frankly, I was a little bit shocked by what I saw there. In addition to the shelves of colorful books with the curriculum for each grade level that we offer, I saw packets of condoms, binders, and stand-to-pee devices, colorful posters with kids-created model of male and female reproductive anatomy, which gave a whole new meaning to the word macaroni art. Boxes of pads and tampons and diva cups, and so much more. I was, frankly, a little bit taken aback, but kind of excited as well. What was all this stuff, and why was it in the basement of this church building? So Michaela started talking to me about the OWL program, and I started to feel so excited and even a little bit more proud than I already was about being part of this congregation. You see, I grew up raised in the Catholic Church, and I received both positive and negative messages surrounding sex and sexuality and sexual health, both in my faith community, my Catholic school, and from my parents. But due to my own parents' lack of education about these topics and the baked-in implicit bias of the teachings of the church, meaning that sex was only okay in a monogamous married relationship between a male and a female, culturally normed expressions of the time, I missed out on a lot of accurate information about sex and healthy relationships, contraception, and protection against STIs. And this type of education caused me and my friends significant harm. And consequently, I saw many friends in otherwise healthy relationships who were often dealing with significant issues, including unplanned pregnancies. Others struggled in unhealthy relationships where they experienced emotional or physical abuse. Still others had a complete lack of understanding, including me, about what a healthy relationship is or how to navigate and communicate with your partner about what your needs are in a relationship. And this was even more significant, all these things, for my friends who didn't fit the culturally norm of gender and sexual preference binaries. Later in life, I have 5 young adult children, And when they were growing up in middle school, well, grade school, middle school, and high school, I really had to re-educate my own self and figure out entirely on my own, reading books, lots and lots of books, on how to support and educate them in a more relevant and helpful way, because it was important for me that they received the kind of education that I didn't. And I did that almost entirely on my own, with my partner, but with no support from my school, from my faith community, from even a lot of my friends. And so when I learned about Al, I was thrilled. So let me tell you a little bit about what I learned. OWL is a program that stands for Our Whole Lives. And it's a series of 6 comprehensive curriculum that we teach as early as kindergarten. And it continues through all stages of adulthood, so that really there's no one in this room today that would be left out from the OWL program. OWL is a unique program that was actually written in conjunction, partnered between 2 organizations, the UUA and the United Church of Christ. And it was the result of 7 years of collaborative effort by these 2 faiths to prepare material which addresses sexuality through the lifespan in age-appropriate ways. And I would actually also say that it wasn't just the result of that 7 years, but they are continuing to make changes to the program so that it's relevant to what we're experiencing today, because as you know, this stuff changes almost every day. So one of the underlying principles of the program is that sexuality encompasses nearly every aspect of our being, from attitudes and values to feelings and experiences. And it's influenced by the individual, by our families, by our culture, by religion or spirituality or lack thereof, by the laws that we have in our society, jobs, professions, institutions, science, and politics. And we call this the circles of sexuality, and the program is really grounded in this model. The OWL program operates under the idea that well-informed people make better, healthier decisions about sexuality than those without complete information. It strives to be unbiased and inclusive, and it teaches about heterosexual relationships, bisexual, homosexual, and transgender sexual health. And in addition to sex, OWL is intended to help children, youth, and adults be emotionally healthy and responsible in terms of their sexuality and sexual development. The OWL curriculum can be taught in a secular way or include faith information. And here we've made the decision to present it as a secular program so we can be as inclusive as possible. But while it's secular, it's not values-free. In fact, it's really grounded in a set of values, guiding principles. And the programs gives clear messages about sexuality, self-worth and self-love, sexual health, responsibility, and justice without shame or fear or judgment or taboos. We offer 3 classes of OWL at UCC right now. The other 3 that we don't offer are for older high school students, grades 10 to 11, young adult, which is a broad span, and older adult, which is also a broad span. So in the K-1 class, we talk about educating children. We talk about birth and babies and bodies and families. It's incredibly age appropriate. In the 4th and 5th grade class, there are more class sessions, and we cover things that help this age group gain the knowledge and the life principles and the skills they need to understand and express their sexuality in a holistic, life-enhancing way. This, again, is developmentally appropriate and introduces topics like body image and gender and sexual identity, what peer pressure is, social media and the internet, consent, and healthy relationships through an inclusive lens with a lot of sensitivity. In the high school class, we actually call it the 7-8 class, so it's kind of upper middle school. It takes a whole year. And this extensive curriculum teaches caring, compassion, respect, and good judgment. Again, it's holistic, and it moves beyond kind of the intellect to address attitudes and values and feelings that the youth have about themselves and the broader world that they're living in. It's a progressive liberal program, just as we are progressive liberal faith. And it's also inclusive and developmentally appropriate. And more importantly, it talks about sensitive topics that are excluded in middle school and high school. While my kids went through public school at that age, they took health classes, the mandatory health classes, and they were taught not to do drugs and not to smoke cigarettes, and they learned about how babies are made. But they barely scratched the surface about sexual health topics. This 7-8 topic, or the 7-8 class, is much more comprehensive, and it covers the language of sexually healthy relationships, what puberty is, bullying and bystander responsibilities, sexual orientation, having a healthy body image and self-love, contraception, consent, STIs, which, spoiler alert, we don't call them STDs anymore. Communicating with a partner, social media and the internet and how to navigate that terrain, making decisions about your sexuality, redefining what abstinence is, pregnancy and teen parenting, and that just literally scratches the surface of what that curriculum covers. One of the really, really important messages of the OWL program is that parents or caregivers who are the main person, hopefully, in the child's life that is raising them is their primary sexual educator. The first class of each curriculum always includes the parents and the caregivers, and the parents unpack what their own sexual education was like, their hopes and their fears, and we kind of do some really funny activities with them to break the ice and get them comfortable talking about this possibly uncomfortable topic. Parents are very much included in this whole process. They don't attend the classes with their child, but we send them weekly communication explaining about what was covered, and we invite them and encourage them to try to talk and dialogue with their child about what they did. We're also really excited because next spring, when we offer the OWL experience, we're actually going to be offering a structured experience for classes beyond just that first class called Parents and Caregivers as Sexual Educators, which will help our parents like me, re-educate themselves and build communication skills and get the support that they need to have great conversations with their kids about sex and sexuality. Doing OWL for our children and our youth connects them to their faith in such powerful ways. Having open and honest conversations about all these things in a positive and affirming way, starting from a very young age, and having that being reinforced over and over again during the time when they're at church. When they hear this information at church, this instantly starts to make church this place where, wow, these people are willing to talk to me about big life things, meaningful things here at church. And not only that, there's these cool adults, these safe adults that I can talk with about anything right here at church. And that's something that they carry with them long after they walk out of the doors of this building and into their own lives as adults. I support the sacred work of the OWL program because it's a safer space for all members of our community to explore who they are and who and what they love. That we humans often try to separate the spheres of our existence. The reality is that public is private and private is public, and whether we like it or not, we cannot come into a space or a place without bringing our whole selves, and that includes our sexual selves. Often in church settings, we think that we can leave this piece of ourselves and other pieces of ourselves behind, leave it at home, in the parking lot, in our car. But in reality, we can't, and we don't. And if we don't realize this, we can significantly negatively impact those around us, in our homes, in our neighborhoods, in our communities. And for me, it's just one of the big pieces of the puzzle, maybe the corner pieces, when you do the border first, that we need to bring our whole and healthy selves into this UUC community, and we do. We do that from our birth or our entrance into this community, no matter the first time that you've encountered us, until we depart. I am so grateful that the OWL program exists and that the UU faith and our congregation is committed to it. It is sacred, sacred work. So each Sunday, we bring our individual joys and sorrows and concerns to our time together. I want you to take a moment to bring to mind the joys and sorrows in your own life, as well as the wider world around you, as we share in our blessing song, The Longtime Son. You can sing along or let the music wash over you. If you're online, there's still time to send in a joy or sorrow to be shared aloud. And you can send that to joysandsorrows@uucuc.org. There are joys and sorrows cards on the back table, and the ushers will be passing them out for your use. And after you have written yours, you can pass it to an usher who will bring it up forward for me to read aloud. And while folks are writing and we're singing our song, if you wish, you can come forward with your card or without and take a moment at our altar table. You can place a rock in the water bowl and let it sink to the bottom, or choose a petal to place in the bowl and see how it floats between air and the water. Whether you choose to come forward or remain seated, let us come together in stillness as Michael plays our blessing song. Are there cards that have gotten passed in? Okay, we'll give it a minute. You want to keep playing? One more round. So this came in online. This is from Tanya Hodges. My Uncle Al died this week after a long illness. He was my dad's last living brother, and he'll be missed. This is from Dan. I'm visiting my child Dust for 8 days. And this is from Dust. I'm thankful to spend this week with my amazing and supportive dad visiting from California. So let us hold these joys in all their richness, in the sorrows in all their fullness, in our hearts, together, with love and tenderness, in gratitude and in hope. So I'd like to invite you to a brief guided meditation. I'm going to do something a little bit different than we normally do. So if you're here with us, I invite you to find a comfortable position, put down anything that might be in your hands. If it's comfortable for you, put your feet flat on the floor. You can close your eyes if you wish, or just let them rest a couple feet in front of you. If you're home, you can even lie down if you want. And I invite you to start with a deep breath. And as you breathe, notice the breath moving through your body, into your nose or your mouth, down into your lungs, filling you up. See if you can become more and more present and aware of your body in this moment, right here. And as you breathe in and out, and you're present with your own body, I invite you to send gratitude and appreciation to your body. We are physical creatures, mind and spirit, feelings and soul housed within. Our bodies are our physical form that allows us to interact with and experience the world. With your next deep breath in, I invite you to a posture of gratitude and appreciation for your sexuality. With each breath, deeply appreciate your unique gender identity, your orientation, your physical self with all your parts and pieces. Be grateful for the pleasure, the intimacy, the connection that comes with and is a part of your sexuality. I also want to acknowledge that thinking about your sexuality might bring up some emotions for you. It might bring up joy, love, or hopefulness. But it also might bring up some shame or some sadness, some trauma, anger, pain, or hurt. For all the goodness that embodiment brings, it also has its challenges. We're all in different parts of our lives where our bodies sometimes don't do what we want. We might have aching joints, long-term health conditions, physical limitations, illnesses, and more. But I want you to remember as you breathe in and out, and you're present within the unique vehicle that is your body. Try to honor the whole of yourself, as well as the spectrum of your sexuality. So breathe in and out one more time, deep breath. And return with us to this congregation in this moment. Thank you. I'm going to bring some lightness, and Terry's going to do the notes piece.
Hi, my name is Terry Frederick, and my pronouns are she, her. And Kelly has now spilled the beans on the owl cabinet, or as I like to call it, the best kept secret that you won't find on the Todd Kinney church tour. So since we are spilling secrets today, I decided to bring you a little bit of a taste of what's in that owl cabinet. I think it's really important to know about the OWL curriculum, that so much of what we're trying to do is demystify topics that are taboo, but also our own selves. And so a lot of what we do with resources is designed to help any of our OWL participants do that. So let's see what we have. Okay, so the first two items I have for you relate to how we try to demystify the body. So here is one of the dolls. I'll pass some of these items around so you can see them. Is one of the dolls that we have out during the K-1 curriculum. We have child dolls and we have adult dolls. And the children are invited at any time to dress them, undress them, play with them, look at them, talk about them, grab them, and bring them over to the curriculum. And sometimes the teachers will pull them in, or the facilitators will pull them in as well. So this is one of the ways we're helping our youngest students think about and demystify bodies. Some of our older students in the 7 to 9, you heard about, we also study the reproductive parts of the body, and then they create them. So here I have for you, oh, I'm upside down, one ovarian reproductive system. And I'm going to pass this around. The pom-pom ball pubic hairs are wanting to fall off a little bit. But what I really want you to notice is that we have the outside of the body, but on the back we also have the inside of the body. And it's helpfully labeled for you by the students who made it. I'll put the box at the back when we're done so I can gather it all back up. When students get to 4 through 6 level or 7 through 9, one of the things we're talking a lot about is puberty. And there are a lot of new things that are happening in puberty and a lot of ways that you're thinking about what's going on with your body. And we have a lot of resources for that. We bring in jock straps, different things like that. But we also talk a lot about your options if you're a person who has your period. And so what I have here in this bag are some of the options. You'll find pads, you'll find tampons, you'll find a Diva cup, you'll find period underwear, some of the options that are available as you're thinking about what's right for your body. Oh, I forgot these at the bottom. Of course, we love books, especially with the younger ones. Telling a story is a good way to get into certain topics. So I brought up a selection of the books we use with some of our youngest. Tell Me About Sex, Grandma. My Body Belongs to Me. And the Family Book. Because in all of these classes, we're not just talking about our bodies and what our bodies do. We're talking about our bodies in relationship to other people, and we really want to talk about what healthy families, healthy relationships, healthy friendships look like. Now we want to talk about safety. So we talk about, particularly in the 7 through 9 curriculum, the ways to be safe and healthy when we choose intercourse behaviors. So when we talk about redefining abstinence, we're talking about choosing when to engage in intercourse behaviors. And intercourse behaviors do carry with them the inherent risk of sexually transmitted infections and, depending on the bodies involved, pregnancy. So we talk about how to be safe. So we have so many things, and I have included a selection in here. You're going to find dental dams and finger condoms and penile condoms, internal condoms, sometimes called vaginal condoms. But you're also going to find more permanent contraceptive options. So we have IUDs, we have the Nuva ring, we have, I don't remember what else I have in here, but several things. And often we will have a nurse midwife come in and really help us understand those contraceptive options and how they work and what their benefits are, that kind of thing. Before I pass these around, it's really important to stress, and we always stress with our students as well, that most of these particular items are for demonstration purposes only, and therefore will not function as contraception. So if you're like, ooh, cool, free IUD, no, it's not gonna work. And the diaphragm has a hole in it, so please don't take it home and don't use it. Yes, we teach them to read the dates on a condom wrapper. So gender is a really important topic that we talk about with our students, and as they get older, we talk about different aspects of gender. And this one's one that's really close to my heart, and it's really important because one of the things we know is that during a time of changing bodies, that can be it can be not just an uncomfortable, but even a dangerous time for people who their gender does not align with the gender that was assigned to them at birth. And so we talk about ways to be healthy in your gender expression. So some of these you may be familiar with and some you may not. One of the things we talk a lot about is the use of binders. And a binder is used to hold down or bind the breast to give the chest a flatter look. And it's really important that we include this because one of the things we know is that when teens don't have access to healthy, safe ways of binding, they will use compression that can cause damage to the body. Similarly, we talk about options for using bathrooms. So I've brought you one example of what is called a stand to pee, so that someone who does not have a penis is still able to stand and use the bathroom, because we know that trans people, and in particular trans men, have a extremely high incidence of bladder and urinary tract infections because they can't find safe places to use facilities. And so we want to talk about what are your options. This one's nice and big, but there are others we talk about that fit discreetly in a pocket, or you can wear in your pants, and different things like that. So that's another thing that we really want to talk about. Okay, the most important resource that we have in the 7th to 9th grade class, you will find out about later when Paul Kaiser tells you about it. So that's my spoiler. All right, thank you very much.
Words matter.
I'm Aggie. My pronouns are she and her.
I'm Jerry, and my pronouns are he, him. And we're going to try and shorten this just a little bit in the interest of time. Words and vocabulary play a huge role in the various levels of our programming. Aggie and I were part of a team, along with Michaela Cruz, who was not able to be here today. We taught the most recent offering for grades 7 through 9. Some word categories have to do with anatomy and physiology. Some have to do with gender and gender identity. Another category is sexual orientation and the category of sexual behavior. We also used materials to help illustrate the terms, such as the anatomy and physiology charts. We have seeded the live audience with some words in numbered envelopes to be opened during this section. If you have a numbered sheet, get ready, especially number 1. Please open now, and we will reveal the definition as stated in the 7th through 9th grade OWL curriculum. All of the definitions between male and female anatomy are describing the organs of those persons assigned at birth as male or female. So, time for number 1 to share their term or phrase. Vas deferens. On persons assigned male at birth, there are 2 long, thin tubes that carry the tiny sperm manufactured in each testicle to the prostate and seminal vesicles. The tubes connect at the prostate. The fluid from the seminal vesicles and prostate gland then deposit the sperm into the urethra at orgasm.
I think sometimes we just assume that if someone was assigned male at birth, or if you have a penis, then you got it. You know what your genitalia is. This is such a good example of our bodies are much more complex than that, and the education of what parts of bodies are there are important. Who has number 2? Yeah, could you read it for us? Vulva. The beautiful inspiration for so much art, right? I think there's often this assumption of like, everything down there is the vagina. The vagina is, I like that hand gesture, thank you. The vagina is important to know about, but the vulva is different from the vagina. The vulva is the external genitalia. It includes the labia, for example. It includes the clit. Yeah, woohoo! Speaking of woohoo, who has number 3? Wow, it's the clitoris.
Clitoris is a highly sensitive organ on the female composed of erectile tissue with many nerve endings. It is situated at the top of the vulva opening, which we just learned about. During some sexual stimulation, the clitoris fills with blood and becomes erect. Only a small portion is visible outside the body. The rest is internal.
Who has number 4? Yes. Yes, assigned sex. This is the complicated physical package that you are born with. It includes your genitalia, your internal reproductive organs, chromosomes, hormones. Even a sex assignment is not black and white, 2 boxes that Western medicine has forever kind of assumed. There's only 2 options. There's many options that increasingly we're getting better at putting more options on people's birth certificates to describe accurately their bodies. You could have on a birth certificate female. You could have on a birth certificate male. You can also have intersex. And this is when there's a balance of hormones and physical characteristics that don't match, again, what Western medicine have assumed are the only two options for these many body parts and beautiful sacred pieces that make up who you are.
Okay, we're ready for number 5. Gender identity is a person's internal sense of their gender, which is not one and the same as the parts you were born with. Gender expression is the way a person chooses to express their gender. Number 6.
Yeah, so heterosexual is part of the spectrum where a person might be attracted to people of a different gender than what they have. Another word for heterosexual is straight, and it's sometimes what some people consider the default. It's good to remind yourself, if you are straight, that is a sexuality. That is something that's not just the default. All right.
And number 7. Outer course. Jargon for sexual activities that exclude vaginal, anal, and oral intercourse. There are many ways two people can express their sexual feelings outside of penetrative intercourse and oral sex. Possible behaviors include kissing, hugging, massage, erotic touch, rubbing bodies together, mutual masturbation, sharing fantasies, and more. These behaviors can lead to orgasm or a release of sexual tension. They are considered safer and less likely to result in pregnancy or transfer of STDs, as Terry talked about with intercourse. STIs.
Which
thank
was
you.
planned so that you could practice
Remember.
that we say STI now.
Some of us are from a different generation, and I think the language is so important because the language is always changing, and even the book that we use is several years old, and so we were constantly looking for updates and the language such as, So anyway, because of the interest of time, we need to keep moving. And next we have a hymn that, if you happen to have a teal hymnal, although you don't need to have the teal hymnal, it's called Everything Possible. And we are going to learn the chorus together. And in the interest of time, we're only going to do the chorus once after we've learned it. And then I'm going to do the verses because they're a little bit more tricky melodically. So we have the chorus words. Okay. And oh, you can be anybody you want to be. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and know I will love you still. You can live by yourself. You can gather friends around. You can choose one special one. And the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're gone. And now we're going to move into the verse. There's 2 verses, and they actually carry the gist of the message. And in talking with Martin this morning, who did our chalice lighting, Martin said that his mother actually sang this to him as a lullaby. And that's exactly how this song was written. I just wish that I had parents that would have sung this to me as a lullaby that told me it was okay to like guys. So think about that with the title, Everything Possible. So we're going to do the first verse, and then we'll join in the chorus. You can stand up if you want when we get to the chorus. Okay? Entirely up to you. Okay. We have cleared off the table, the leftovers saved, washed the dishes and put them away. I've told you a story and tucked you in tight at the end of your knockabout day. As the moon sets its sail to carry you to sleep over the midnight sea, I will sing you a song no one sang to me. May it keep you good company. Oh, you can be anybody you want to be. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and know I will love you still. You can live by yourself, you can gather friends around, you can choose one special one. And the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done. Next verse. There are girls who grow up strong and bold. There are boys quiet and kind. Some race on ahead, some follow behind, some go in their own space and time. Some women love women, some men love men, some raise children and some never do. You can dream all the day, never reaching the end of everything possible for you. Let's do the chorus again. Be anybody you want to be. You can love whoever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and know I will love you still. You can live by yourself, you can gather friends around, you can choose one special one. The only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're gone.
Thank you so much, Jerry. Thank you, Michael. So we have come to the portion of our service where we acknowledge that our circle of care doesn't stop at our church doors. We are deeply connected to our community that we find ourselves in and to the wider world. And there's a ton of announcements that I'm going to skip, but I will continue to encourage you to keep an eye on the e-news, which is our weekly newsletter, for opportunities to show up and get involved and be part of things here. You can also follow us on your social media platform of choice, whether it be Facebook or Instagram or even TikTok, or download the UUC mobile app. And there are some slides that are going to show that are announcements, so if you're staying afterwards for fellowship hour, check those out. And so each Sunday, in recognition of our very real interdependence and reliance on one another, we pass the plate and share our offering with an organization who is doing the work of justice in the world. Through the end of July, we have selected an organization called Books to Prisoners, which is a local group that provides reading and educational materials to incarcerated adults and juveniles across the state of Illinois. And they aspire to providing education to the public about the challenges of education and literacy behind bars. And so there's many different ways that you can give. You can give by text or through the online portal of our website, or if you're here in the sanctuary with us, the basket will be passed and checks will be made out to UU Church of Urbana-Champaign. No matter how you choose to contribute today, half of your donation will go towards the work of our church, and half will go to Books and Prisoners. And so we invite you to give whatever is generous for you, and know that anything you contribute will be graciously and gratefully received and put to use, helping make a real impact right here in our community. And so the offering will now be taken. Thank you for your generosity expressed in this and so many other ways. Before I turn it over to Martin and Kim to share some more information, I'm a firm believer in that you learn something every day. And guess what I just found?
Hello. In the interest of time, we have decided that I'm going to do my piece about why sexuality matters, and Kim is going to save hers for another time. I also do have to run out after the service, so if you have any questions for me, I will be at many other coffee hours, just probably not this one. I'm sorry about that. So, let me get this pulled back up. So. I know that for many of you, I'm a new face. I actually just moved to Champaign recently, though my mom has lived here for a couple of years, so I've been kind of coming back and forth. I actually grew up going to Unity Temple in Oak Park, so that's where a lot of my Unitarian Universalism experience happened, and I also went to OWL there. So, thank you. So I am now trained to facilitate OWL for grades 7 through 12. But like I said, that's not my first experience with OWL. I actually went through OWL in 5th grade and in 8th grade. My congregation at the time was lucky enough that we had enough students in each class that we really could only reduce it to 1 grade at the time. And I kind of just want to say a little bit about why OWL is really important. I got a wonderful, thorough, kindness-driven education. To be fair, I didn't learn quite as much in 5th grade OWL as I learned in 8th grade OWL, partially because I was a very inquisitive child and my mom was very graceful and answered lots of my questions. But I just remember my 8th grade OWL class being much more formative. I definitely learned a lot in my 5th grade class, I want to be clear, but it was just a lot more formative. It was longer, I was closer to my peers at the time, and I had a much better understanding of who I was and how it felt about my own gender, sexuality, and expression at the time. Having adults who were passionate and kind, leading us in structured activities, while actually being able to take the time to make sure we were processing that information really meant a lot to me. I learned more about words that I could describe myself and others. I learned how to access resources that would help me or my friends should we find ourselves with unexpected pregnancy or body changes, and a whole lot more. Let me tell you a quick story, and honestly, this is going to sound pretty familiar. It was a lesson on consent. So Kim and Paul demonstrated this, and it also is sort of a reflection of how much the OWL curriculum changes to be up to date, because I did this in my 8th grade OWL, and this activity is now being implemented across all ages of OWL. It was on consent, which, if you need a definition, is the permission for something to happen or an agreement for something to do something. Many workshops in the curriculum of all ages focus specifically on consent, and the class as a whole is built on it as a core principle. The activity I remember very distinctly started by telling us what consent was and that it could apply to many different situations, not just sex, which is what we had mainly heard the word being used for before. They gave us examples of giving and receiving consent to be hugged, and other examples that were far more common in our 13 to 14-year-old lives than sexual intercourse was. We were all given pens and pencils and assigned partners to test 4 or 5 different scenarios. Sorry, my thing keeps loading weird. Each scenario where one person was asking to borrow a pen and the other person was to say either yes or no. There was a lot of nuance in the ways we could ask for the pen. There was a lot of nuance in the ways we could say yes or no, but they were assigned. We had to say yes or no, depending on which situation we were in. I'm so sorry. This meant that all of us had to actively practice saying no, whether or not we had thought of the thought or not. And a lot of us didn't have a lot of experience saying no to someone asking for a pen. This is a pretty uncomfortable situation for a lot of people, especially if you're shy or taught to please others and your own wants and needs. It's also uncomfortable because the sharing of a pen can easily be talked about as a very easy thing to give. It's just one pen, you have 5. Why did you give me that pen instead of the really nice one that you have? But as with so much of life, something that seems very easy to one person can be very difficult to another, or just something they don't want to do. The other person may not understand, forcing us, in the gentlest terms of the word, to practice consent on this very base level that we already knew a lot about, that we could turn around and take to school tomorrow, made it a lot easier for us to view how important consent was to be spread across all walks of life, especially something like sex that can be tied to so many emotions and intimacy of life. I'm aware that I'm sort of jumping around. I'm having some issues with my phone, sorry about that. But the main point is this. I was given a safe, welcoming space to learn how to say yes and learn how to say no before I ever needed to think about having consensual sex. And that made an enormous difference. Everything else OWL teaches is fantastic, but it's really just other tools in my pocket to navigate life. And I'm very grateful for it. Thank you.
everybody's favorite time, the question box. I made this question box for our recent 4 through 6 OWL. That's what this is. So the question box, what happens is at the end of every session, every one of the participants writes something anonymously on a card. You can hear me, right? This is important. And puts it in the question box. We have everyone write something because it enhances that anonymity. Because can you imagine if you're the only person that had a question, you put it in there, everybody knows it was yours, right? And quite frankly, it encourages participation because I think if you write something, you're going to write something maybe a little more meaningful. So anyway, then what would happen is before our next class, the facilitators would get together, look at the questions, and decide, how to answer them in the most meaningful, valuable way, that sort of thing. And then at the beginning of each, at the next session, right after the greeting, we would do what we're about to do now. We'd go through the box and we answer them. It's cool because the person who asks the question gets the answer, but everybody, of course, learns that. So we have a few questions in here. Normally, we answer all of the questions, but in the interest of time, there's 2 here that I think are... Yeah, I'm going to do these 2. Hang on. So this one is, how can I allow or welcome love and intimacy from another when it's hard to welcome it from myself? Thank you for this question. I'm not a trained therapist, but I can tell you what I think. I'll do my best. I'm not certain if who's asking this question. I'm not sure if you're speaking about you have a partner that you want to feel this way with, or if that you're searching for a partner. But let's say if you want to allow or welcome love and intimacy from someone, right, and you're having the struggle within yourself, I'd say you need to include them on that struggle. You'd need to ask them for understanding and let them know that you want love and you want intimacy and you'd like for it to be with them. But that it's hard because you're having apparently a difficult time loving yourself. And that is incredibly vulnerable, I would imagine. But I think from vulnerability we can really, that's one way that relationships can really, really grow. I'll tell you what, I'm actually going to leave the question box today also on the back table, because what we do is we will tell the folks, hey, if I didn't quite hit the answer that is helpful to you, please hit the question box again, maybe with a follow-up question. And I'll figure out how we'll get those answered for you all. Yeah, well, maybe the e-news or something like that, because I don't want to leave you hanging. There's a second question that I'll do. How to embrace the experience of jealousy and cultivate compersion when a person we love is experiencing joy and intimacy with someone else. Compersion, for those of you who need a refresher, in general is a feeling of happiness when you're seeing someone else's happiness, getting your own happiness through someone else's happiness kind of thing. So I'm making an assumption that this person is in a polyamorous relationship where you may have multiple partners. So how to embrace the experience of jealousy. So embrace it. So jealousy, let's see. So compersion, as I said, we're talking about having a feeling of happiness through someone else's happiness. Happiness comes from within. Your happiness comes from within. And happiness or contentment, maybe a notch down, comes from when your needs are being met. If your needs are being met, can probably settle into contentment, happiness. So jealousy, the feeling here is jealousy. Jealousy is related to fear. So if you're having a feeling of jealousy or fear, I'm making some guesses here, okay? But you have some needs that are not being met in this relationship. And what are those needs? I'm going to make a guess. Maybe those needs are a need for security, a need to be seen. But the way out of this, the way through this, in any healthy relationship, you should feel safe emotionally and physically to express your feelings and express the needs that are tied to those feelings. So I hope that you can speak with this person or persons, let them know, I'm feeling jealous. I'm feeling scared. They can't read your mind, so I hope you can take the next step and tell them it's because I need to feel safe. It's because I need to feel secure. I'm scared. And the final step, you need to make a request. They need to know, how can I help you feel secure? How can I help you feel valued? And only you can tell them that, some sort of request, like, I need some reminders. I need you to speak my love language. I need to know that when you're gone for a week with this other person or whatever, that I'm not forgotten. Those are just examples. I don't know you exactly, your exact situation. And again, I'm going to leave this question box out there. Please follow up if you need some more. Those are just a couple examples, way more adult than what was in the 4 through 6. But again, this is my favorite part, and thanks for your time with me. Did I say something else?
So first of all, can we just get one more appreciation for our excellent facilitators? I don't always get to see them. I don't get to see these people in action because the classroom is theirs and the relationship with the participants is theirs. My relationship is with the parents. My relationship is outside of the classroom, but they go through a good amount of training and bring their whole selves to this, and you can see they have a passion and a skill. So I appreciate them, and I'm really glad to have been able to see them in action and have them share that with you a little bit. So we have talked lots about sex today. Who knew that you could say some of these words that we said and express some of the concepts that we talked about today, this morning in church? It may have been a little bit uncomfortable, but I hope that you had a little bit of fun and learned something new along the way. But this just wasn't an intellectual exercise. My hope and our hope is that you had a chance to be engaged and maybe excited enough to be raving fans and help us with the important work of sacred sex ed. So what does that look like? How can you help? There's actually 3 ways that I'm going to make a request of you to help. First, we need more folks like these folks and the others who weren't able to make it today. These people are doing life-changing and life-saving work. And there's people in our congregation and in our community, whether they're 8 or 80, that need to hear what we have to say about sex ed. And right now, like I said, we only offer classes for 3 different age groups, for K1, for 4, 5, and 7, 8. And our classes, they top out at 12 to 15 participants. And sometimes we have to turn people away. We need a deeper bench of people trained to to help keep doing what we're doing and maybe even expand the program and bring all 6 modules. And if you are open to being open, if you're willing to bring your own vulnerability, your awkwardness, your sense of humor, and sometimes a great poker face, we'd love to have you consider being a facilitator. There's 2 trainings coming up in the area, one in August in Bloomington Normal, one in September in Oak Park, to be trained in those different programs. And one of the perks is that the church will 100% fund your training if you are willing to commit to being a facilitator for at least 2 years. So that's my first ask. And if there's people in this who aren't in the room today who you think would be great facilitators, send them my way. The second one is to please help us get the word out about what this congregation is doing. About half of our current participants in our classes are not from our congregation, and that's good. And they learn about us through word of mouth. We'd love to share more with the greater CU community about this important work. And so please share the link to this service. Tell them that we talked about sex in church and that we love doing it. And finally, if you're a parent, a caregiver, a grandparent, or if you know somebody that is, please consider enrolling your child in the OWL class this year or next. These are the classes that are going to be coming up this year in spring and next year for the next year. So I'm happy to answer questions about any of this, and we'll be putting announcements out. So now I would like to invite Martin back up to help us do the chalice extinguishing, and I'm real good at that.
Yeah, actually, we're going to switch out and Paul's going to do that.
Okay, Paul's going to do it.
I'm going to do the reading part, right? Yeah. Awesome. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. Exactly.